Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Code with Ease by Varsha. Now today we will be talking about Content Delivery Network or CDN. But before that, picture this that you are craving your favorite street food pani puris as part of a busy street food festival, and now anyway the festive season is on. Now your favorite pani puri vendor unfortunately has put up only one stall. There's a lot of rush, lot of crowd, but you have to keep on waiting. Like it's how sad it can be. But imagine this that your favorite pani puri vendor has brought with him a team, a squad of let's say 10 vendors serving the same pani puri, the same secret recipe. Now entire crowd can get dispersed and distributed among all the vendors and you don't have to wait anymore. You get your pani puris fresh, fast, no waiting in line. So now this is exactly how CDN works. No one, instead of trying to get the data from one server, there are a lot of servers spread out. And you get your content quickly from the closest one without waiting in line. With that, let's dive into the technical details. Alright, so now let's start with the main content. So as we have seen from the previous example, why are we using this CDN? Because we want to reduce the latency with which we want to supply or provide the content to our end user. And CDNs can improve the performance because the data, the content which they want, that is available in the servers which is nearer to them. This will help in increasing the overall performance, the overall availability of the content, and also reduce the bandwidth cost. So this is the main reason why we are using CDN. It should be very clear from the example. So what is a CDN? So the traditional definition, like I say, it's a global network of distributed servers. It's a system of distributed servers which will deliver some content to the end users based on their geographical location. And what is the primary goal? The latency, like CDN, latency. These two terms should always be used interchangeably. You're using CDN, you want to reduce the latency, you want to improve the performance because you're providing the content from the server which is geographically closer to the user, to your end user. Now let's see a couple more real life examples. So streaming services, the platform which you are in right now, YouTube, is nothing but you're streaming the content to the end users, from across the globe. So how they are doing it? The content which they are streaming, they're doing it from based on the user's location, which is why we are getting a smoother, like no buffering, smoother playback even during the peak times. The next example will be about the learning platforms. So that have these platforms are hosting, millions of courses, and concurrently so many users are watching. So how are they making sure that the streaming content, like the course content which is made available to them, that the students, if the student has to wait for 5 minutes for the content to be loaded, nobody would want to watch, nobody would want to learn from these platforms. So video content and course material, these are cached using the CDN nodes, which will allow the students to access the course faster. And finally, we have the social media platform, the social media giants who also deliver the content in near real time across different geographies. How they are doing it? Because when the user, as a user, I'm uploading some image as part of a social media post, those images, static assets are getting cached and they're getting replicated across all the global servers. So regardless of where I am sitting or where is my friend on the social media, they will get very quick access to all the posts regardless of where they are, regardless of where the author is from. So far we understood that content delivery network, as the name suggests, it is a network of distributed servers which is trying to deliver some content to the end users based on the geographic location. I would not say based on, I would say irrespective of the geographic location, they should be able to access the content very smoothly, thus ensuring faster load times and better performance. Now let's understand what are the key components of a CDN. Edge server, like you have to understand these terms whenever we talk of CDN. What are the terms that we mostly use? Edge server, origin server. What is the edge server? The server which is closer to you. You are the end user, the server which is closer to you, and who has that cached content. So when I am requesting the content, I am getting the content from my nearest edge server. Now, origin server, just the opposite. The user who has actually uploaded that content, that is the actual server where the original content will lie. And that content has been cached in different servers across the world. So when the content was originally uploaded, that is why we call it the origin server. It was uploaded to that server. And the edge servers are the downstream ones. Now, if let's say the content is not available in the edge server, there is some super class. So who is the super? So you can think of it like the super class subclass. Origin server is the superclass, edge servers are the subclass. So if it is not updated or available in the edge server, origin server will be able to give it to us. Next is the concept of caching. I have a detailed video, everything about caching. So if you want to understand from scratch, you can watch that. So why the caching term is important, why this is important content? Because the static assets, the images, videos, all the file, the media assets, all of this needs to be cached. When you're caching it, the users will be able to access this faster without having to fetch it from the original server, from the origin server again and again. With that is the reason why it has been cached across 100 different locations across the globe. So that when I am accessing it, I will get it from my nearest edge server. Otherwise, what I had to do, I had to get it request to the edge server. The edge server would have to fetch it from the origin server and get it, which is going to be time consuming and defeat the entire purpose of having a CDN. The next is load balancing, of course, because if your single server crashes, you cannot put the load on one single server. So I will have to distribute it. So similarly, in edge servers also, there has to be some load balancing. What if one edge server is not able to respond? Then what will happen? So overall, these are the important components of the building blocks of a CDN. Now, how it actually works. So let's revisit this section again. User requests a content. Let's say you are in YouTube. The request goes to your nearest edge server. So if you are in India, you will have certain edge servers based on whatever the CDN is being used. Now, if the content is cached, you will get it. If it is not, then you are going to get it, fetch it from the origin server, and also cache a copy of that. Now the content remain cached in the edge server depending on the whatever the TTL is being set. And every time you are requesting, you are going to deliver it to your end users. That's it. So this is a simple mechanism how your CDN caching and delivery of the content works. So now let's look at some example CDN providers. Very, very importantly, you have Amazon CloudFront, Cloudflare. You also have Akamai and Fastly and Google Cloud CDN. So these are the important names, the providers who actually. So Akamai is the oldest one. Okay, so you must be knowing about this. And from the cloud vendor perspective, you have Google Cloud and you have Amazon CloudFront. So you should be knowing the names of this, right? Now the most important question is push CDN versus pull CDN. When should you use a pull mechanism and when should you use a push mechanism? So let's try to understand this. What is a push CDN? So push CDN means you have a content. Okay. Now that new content, whenever it's originating from the origin server, that is pushed to your CDN servers, the edge servers, and I'm serving the content. Great. So every time I am manually uploading the content, every time there's a content being uploaded, I'm pushing the update to all the CDN edge servers. So what is happening? Content is getting uploaded directly to the CDN edge servers from the origin server to the CDN edge servers, and the URLs on the website are updated to point to the CDN locations. Simple. So I've given one step-by-step asset. So you have your website static assets. Okay. Now using this, you upload these static assets on the CDN's edge server. So every time you're manually uploading this static asset to the CDN's edge servers, or you can use a tool or script. Now you want to update your website. Now you want them to use the CDN URLs. So instead of pointing to your origin server, you are going to point it to your edge server location. So whatever your website is, instead of looking like this, it will be CDN, whatever the image is. So now cache settings are also provided. You have set the TTL that after 30 days it is going to expire, let's say. Now, when you visit the website, the browser will request the image, the assets from the CDN. The CDN edge server is now going to take care of it, how to serve it based on the user location. So user in New York, when it gets request for this product, it is going to route to the nearest edge server in New York. Similarly, for India, it is going to route to the nearest edge server is India. Now, whenever you're updating your website, let's say you want to change the product image. Again, you are pushing a new image. So instead of product 1, you become product 1 updated. So now CDN is going to update the cached version accordingly. So it will be the new product image is going to be updated. So what is the use case? Why are we doing this? I have a small website. Every time I'm putting up a image, I'm updating it manually, setting the rules for the TTL. So this is good for businesses which are having very limited amount of content and which is not always updating. Otherwise, you have to sit and manually upload it. So two things. One is a small business. Second, not frequently updated content. And third is for businesses having very low to moderate traffic. Static website. So this kind of a mechanism works. This entire steps will work. Every time you update, you are going to push the new image to the CDN. So everything looks good with this mechanism of push CDN. The content owner, the onus is on the owner to upload whenever there is a change in the assets. He's updating it and it's getting propagated to all the CDN at server nodes. Now, what is the problem? The problem is, suppose if there's an update in the image and I have forgotten to update it. So my end user is going to get the stale data. So I forgot to update it and the CDN at server is still showing the old data. It can be any kind of content. So that is the problem of push, where the manual push is needed. So any kind of dynamic content change, whenever the dynamic content change is happening, where there's a high traffic, frequently changing data, push CDN is not going to be the best bet. That is where pull CDNs come into picture. Pull CDN is more like whenever the user is going to request the content, it is going to check if it is already available. If there's a cache miss, it is not available in the CDN server, it is going to get it from the origin server. So this works well for dynamically updated content. So you made a request, CDN will fetch it. If it is not cached, it's a cache miss, it will fetch it from the origin server. So there is no headache for the owner to upload it manually. And then once it gets from the original server, then that particular updated asset is cached in its own server. So there's no need for manual, like I said, there's no manual headache of uploading the content. And this is important for all the opposite scenarios. You have high traffic, you have dynamic generation of content, and you also have frequently updated content, which is getting changed almost every day, like news articles. Every single day it is going to change. So either you have a person who is going to manually upload the news, or every millisecond, every second the news is changing. So what mechanism will work best? Pull CDN is going to work best because the maintenance is low. There is no manual intervention. I am going to update my cache based on what request is coming. If my user wants to read this particular news, and if it clicks on it, then I'm going to see if I have the latest version, or I need to get it from the origin server. So it's useful for sites with high traffic, dynamic content, like we mentioned, because frequent content updates, it's not practical. Now the comparison between this, so three things: the maintenance, the traffic, and the type of content. You can just pause and read the thing which we have already discussed. Now, what are the caveats? What are the disadvantages and things which we have to be careful about? The first thing is your new or updated content. The very first, when you're trying to get the updated content, then there is going to be a little bit of latency. After it is going to cache it, then it is going to be smooth. The first request is going to be a little bit performance heavy. Managing the cache expiration and invalidation. I've talked about cache eviction, TTL invalidation, all these techniques in the video of the cache in the system design playlist. You need to watch that to understand this point. In case of sudden traffic spikes, your CDN may not be able to get the content frequently. Now that is also going to increase the load on the server. So these are some of the caveats, like the trade-offs, which you have to be mindful about. Setting and configuring we already discussed, and also if the origin service experiences downtime, then also you will be able to not be able to deliver the updated content. So then that can affect your availability. So these are the certain things which you have to understand, that not everything is so perfect in real world. These are the challenges which we have to face, and we have to find out solutions for this. So with that, we are wrapping today's video. It was a short video on how CDN actually works. What are the key terminologies, concepts, building block, and everything which you have to keep in mind when you're working with CDNs. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos like this.